Hey, ladies and gentlemen, everybody in between, welcome back to another episode of Behind the Lava Lava. We want to acknowledge our sponsors for this episode, Matai Watches, Independent Island Life Insurance, and Natin But Grindz. These are our faithful sponsors that's been with us, fairly new in the beginning of the year. Want to shout out and let them appreciate them for their continuous support. Here with your regular cast members. First time in a long time where all of us, we're shooting, doing a little recording, and having a little conversation. Mr. Johnny with me, Mr. Spencer, Mr. Mike Tan, and Mr. Milford Tiafala. If you guys don't know, we're all veterans, and this is a good time to live, a good time to be in, and I just want to give it out to the guys. See how how's your day been? How's your life been? How's your week been? Go ahead, guys.
Thanks for asking. I've had a pretty pleasant week. Lots of sunshine and roses and a lot of, I worked, been working a lot. Traffic is stupid. People are stupid. And, I started a keto kind of keto diet, more of a cutting cycle thing, cut carbs and sugar. And it's miserable. Life is miserable. Can't eat everything.
Speaking on keto, man, I did a 4 day intermittent fasting. It wasn't really intermittent fasting; it was actually a 4 day fasting fast. Like literally, just
straight fasting.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
and like a water fast.
Yeah, and that was pretty much the reason why I did it. Was I haven't been on 350 pounds. I kind of have a lot of hypertension and all that, diabetes and all that stuff. So that was part of the reason why I did it. I was trying to reset my body, especially my organs and everything. And so just trying to get to a comfort level. And surprisingly, it did work. And I don't know keto,
Keto is mostly no carbs, but I went a little bit ahead and cut out sugars as well. I read a little thing that just quitting sugar for 2 weeks can do wonders for the body. So, I mean, same thing for you. I'm getting heavier, knees, joints. The gout's kicking my butt. So, got to stay ahead.
Speaking on all those health problems, this weekend I was feeling a little woozy. I had some weird pain in like the middle of my chest, but I thought the whole time is like my upper back pain. So this went on for like 3-4 days, but I never figured out what it was. So hopefully it'll clear. But if it comes like Monday or Tuesday and the problem is still there, I'll probably go see a doctor and see if it's leading to a heart problem, or because that's one of the signs, right? Is when you start to feel impending doom and you feel numbness and all that problem that comes when you're fat like me. And yeah, this whole week has been very sunny. I spent the day at the splash pad with a birthday party, and the day before and I also spent it out in the sun. I forgot what the event was. I think we just took my dad out just to get some sun, but it was too much sun. It's very hot in Utah right now. It's in the high 90s, almost 100. So that was my week. It was a short week because of 4th of July, right? We had some fireworks, but it was overall good.
I was just about to say, possibly the reason why you're having, all that issues because your dad over there took it for you, bro. Yeah.
His dad be getting down in the kitchen. Man, I went over one day for dinner or for lunch with him, and my food was bomb. Mr. Tan, your food's amazing. Shout out to you.
Okay. Hopefully you got a lot of some good recipes from the Tan macaroni days. I'll be up there, man. First place I'll head to is your house. So you better know how all the Asian, different cuisines and stuff. Is that what he primarily cooks though? All the, the Asian cuisine,
Chinese, all Asian, some salmon. He knows salmon cooking. And the only recipe I'll probably grab from him is his lumpia and spring roll recipe, which I'll share with Johnny when he comes over. Johnny already he sees it getting done, so he probably knows the recipe.
All food's better when somebody else made it. That's my opinion.
I had a pretty good week this week too. It's like actually this is usually my favorite week of the year because at time of recording it was the 4th of July, but also what coincides with that for fight fans is that it's International Fight Week that the UFC puts on, and so it's like I always know that I got my 4th of July barbecue and I've got a really awesome card like a UFC card on Saturday. So that always like falls in on the same week. So typically this is my favorite week of the year, but this week actually was particularly good for a few reasons. Like I said, 4th of July weekend, I love it. 4th of July is one of my favorite holidays. Had my sister and her 2 daughters over. Her son, who's closer to my age, him and his wife came over. And I grilled a barbecued a little bit. I'm not really a grill master. I'll throw burgers and hot dogs on, but I love that part of my family. But none of them eat beef right now. At least they're not really vegans anymore. But it feels weird grilling turkey burgers on 4th of July. But you know what? It is. I can make that compromise. Actually, the turkey burgers are pretty good. So I grilled up turkey burgers. I sat everyone down. We all hung out and enjoyed each other's company. But then I threw the Patriot on. I'm like, all right, it's the 4th of July. We're going to eat burgers and we're going to watch the Patriot. So extended edition. So it was actually a good 4th of July. But more than that, like a few things went my way this week. I've been trying for years. I know I've griped about this on the podcast before that I've been trying to get rank in the Army. I've been the same rank for just shy of a whole decade. I finally actually got my promotion orders this last week. And so I've finally get to join the prestigious position of staff sergeant, woohoo.
Hey,
18
congrats.
years in, I got my EP, but it actually does feel. Thank you, appreciate it, guys. It does feel
headaches now for you, brother.
I'll take that, and the best part about it is I can officially begin my 3-year countdown to retirement. Need my high 3, and I'm out. But I promise I'm not going to be that dirtbag NCO that's got one foot out the door. I never liked working with that guy. I promise I'm not going to be that guy. So I was like, you know what, this, and then we had UFC 290. It was awesome. T knows what I'm talking about. Awesome card, best card I've seen in a long time. So I don't know, good week for me. And
speaking of 4th of July, it seemed like this year every city went all out, especially with what's been happening in the last few years with that illness we're not supposed to talk about, but now it doesn't exist. But yeah, it looked to me like everyone went all out with the parades, the events they're holding. I went to the Clearfield one, and man, it was jam-packed. And yeah, congrats, Spencer, on your promotion.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So, listening to Michael's symptoms, I know what his problem is. His back pain is coming from carrying this podcast and doing all that work. And
that is true. That is true.
Utah Pacific Islander Chamber of Commerce putting in work for that too. But before we get to the 4th of July, let's talk about the 3rd of July. It was Michael Tan's anniversary. Double digits, right?
Oh, thank you. 10 years.
Congratulations.
Unless this was an OPSEC moment and you don't want people to know that, for password's sake.
No, I want people to know it's been 10 long, gruesome years. And it's been good too.
You said long.
It hasn't only been, in marriage, it's good and bad. The good and bad. Yeah, I'm being very careful right now.
Wait. Well, careful.
And then we got our Vegas and Texas citizens up in here, and then Michael talking about the 90 degrees, and I just see them smirking. Talk about that's 5 a.m. for them. But for you guys that had to work, man, I feel bad for you. I took leave on Monday. I took leave on Wednesday, and I just worked one day Thursday. man, it was glorious. And then when it comes to fireworks on the 4th of July, 808 owns it. And that's all Hawaii. Whether it's 4th of July, New Year's, man, all the streets will be smoking. You can see that joint from the freeway, all different cities, all over, all parts of the island of Oahu. But
Well, didn't Salt Lake do like a drone show?
Salt Lake,
Yeah,
Yep.
they
First
did
drone
instead
show.
of fireworks. They did a drone show, and I'd seen some videos of it, and it was actually pretty neat. You know, they did like the Statue of Liberty and like the flag waving, and that was pretty cool. Now, if only they would do both drones and fireworks and see how many drones last up.
just drones shooting fireworks at each other. Yeah.
There we go.
I'm actually with T on that, man. You know, like Hawaii's bar none. Like outside of Hawaii, El Paso is the worst place for you to be in if you want to watch fireworks. So this week, my lady and my sister and my sister-in-law, they actually went out because I'm not a big fan of loud noises, loud popping noises, and that kind of affects my mental health in a way. But anyhow, they went out. They were supposed to go to on base. Apparently, when they got there, there was a long line, and that's the only spot over here in El Paso that actually does somewhat of a almost close to Hawaii fireworks. But they didn't go on base, so they ended up going on top of. There's a scenic area on top of the mountain here where you can see the whole area of not only here in El Paso but also the border in Mexico. And apparently, it was horrible. And they didn't see any fireworks until they went into downtown El Paso, and they said that was somewhat appealing, and they spent some time over there. For me this week, thankfully, my lady and my sister-in-law, they're both in the military. They took the lead, and I was kind of free to be on the golf course. So this whole week I was on a golf course. Lowest score I got so far, scored a 76, which is it's a feat for me. So
Hey, nice game. Who kept score? Did you sign that card?
Hey, I didn't keep score. It was another buddy, but
nice,
for the three guys, Spence, Mike, and hey, that's scoring 76 is pretty good. You're coming
really
close
good.
to Tiger Woods side look, but. Yeah, so that was my week. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I'm just happy to be alive.
That's only 4 strokes over par.
Yeah, and we're playing from the blues, of course, but
snap!
Yeah,
bro, get ready for the pro card. Start practicing your pro card.
Actually, the reason why I want to get my handicap down is because I actually want to go try out with the U.S. Open. That's the whole book. Because if you go to the U.S. Open, guys, and for all our listeners out there, if you are a golfer and you get down to at least a 0.36 handicap, you could go try out for the U.S. Open. And if you make it within the cut, I think 65, if you get the cut at 65 and you actually play in the U.S. Open and you're actually number 65, I think you only get $10,000. That's a lot of money, So,
and the purse on the U.S. Open is pretty good too.
Oh, yeah. It's high now. I think we should do a podcast on golf, in the future. But anyhow, man, I'm glad everybody had a good week. I'm glad to see you guys here healthy and somewhat healthy, I should say. But, I know, I kind of mentioned it earlier in our podcast, we are veterans. And I'm interested also to discuss some of the stories, that we have, and that's where our topic is kind of going for this evening. I know aside from us four, Johnny, T, and Mike, Spencer, I know you're still actively in that role, and congrats again for that big promotion. It's always I would say it's a role where it's rewarding because now you have a lot of eyes are going to be looking at you, and at the same time it's going to be a headache. And then you got a lot of paperwork, and then I think you're getting to an area where you're going to get quite lonely because you're up there and that rank status. But yeah, I'm interested to open this up to you guys. Talk about your stories. As veterans, what kind of interesting stories you guys might have, or what how was your, service like? Some interesting stories. Share that out there. I'll share it out. Tan. If you have a story, bro, let us know.
I remember graduating boot camp. Right after graduation, Camp Pendleton. Immediately, I hit that street in Oceanside where all the boots go and all the military folks go to. I remember walking down those streets. I think it's the same beach where Junior Seau lived, right? So, yeah, I was not aware of. Basically, I was culture shock. I didn't know that, there were shady people out there trying to sell you stuff. But the point I'm trying to get is that no one prepares you for life after boot camp, especially if you came from an island where you feel a sense of security, you feel safe, mainly because you've been around people who treats you with respect and kindness, compassion. The Pacific Islander vibe that you get on an island is not the same when you hit the streets of a city here in the U.S. There are people out there who are trying to be deceptive, trying to sell you things or get you to do things that you're not used to. But being out there in California, especially outside Camp Pendleton, thinking back to it really opened my eyes to how ignorant we are to a lot of things. And through mistakes and experience, we learn and we grow and we start to know more things and we get better as human beings. So, my time in the military, it was, for me, it was a great time for me to serve in the military. If I had to go back, I wouldn't really change anything, but I realized how lazy I was when it came to re-enlisting. I didn't care where my path took me when it came to my EAS date. I tried to reapply to, lat move, jumping into another job because the job I was working on, they were decommissioning the aircraft, the CH-46s, transitioning it to the V-22 Ospreys. So I dropped the ball and I just got out because I wasn't even thinking of the military as a career. I wasn't even thinking of when leaving the military. So I was basically going with the flow. I think that's a lot of our thinking. Us Islanders, Samoans, we like to go with the flow of things. And then when we get to a certain point of life, when we've grown up, we kind of look back and we kind of regret our decisions not saving this much instead of blowing it, partying every week, drinking every week at the clubs and stuff. So that's my short little random spout.
But what was your enlist?
6322. So I was a CH-46 helicopter avionics technician. So basically I'm a aircraft electrician. So any component part that had electricity or wires running to it, I would repair, replace, basically maintain every electrical system in the aircraft, including weapon system, communication systems,
Nice. So
anything in aircraft.
I just wanted to ask too, like around the time you got out, wasn't that around the time that they were doing cutbacks? I know during the Obama administration, like we started to get into this idea of a smaller, more elite military, in quotes. Would you say you were kind of because I know a lot of people that put off their reenlistment, but you don't exactly get out because of that. Like they'll keep you in limbo for a while until you make up your mind. Do you feel like because they were doing cutbacks at the time that affected you?
The cutbacks were a year before I got out. So that was the attitude of everyone taking the early retirement, early outs. We call it early outs. I'm not sure if Johnny and T remember that those days where they were offering it to people and
Verp.
they were taking verp. So
Verp.
I think my attitude stayed like that. So I wasn't. I don't remember what I was thinking back in the day, but I think that affected my attitude of not wanting to reenlist. They did offer big bonuses to move on to other jobs. Like the bonuses I'm talking about is 40 to 80 G's to let move to other jobs. And now they're offering little, what, 3,000, 4,000, not even, I don't even consider them bonuses to reenlist.
Shoot, I remember it was 55 for OD or for EOD.
They were big bonuses
And then
back then.
I got out, and then 2 years later, it was like some of the infantry MOSs, like FOs and JTAC guys were getting offered up to 80,000 to stay in because retention was getting in specialty MOSs. But everybody else was getting the rough or the straight up 10, just 10 G's to reenlist.
See, and right now we're getting back to that desperate phase. Well, at least us in the Army, because bigger branch, we need a lot more bodies to fill the roles. Recruitment's at an all-time low. I don't know what they're currently offering for infantry. I know a few years ago they were offering like 50 for just your initial sign-on bonus, but not for me though. I'm the most common MOS in the Army, so no, they're never going to offer anything big for me. The fact that I got anything this last re-enlistment, I actually consider myself blessed, because typically throughout my career, 91 Bravos, all-wheel mechanics, you ain't getting nothing. There's plenty of you. So,
well, I thought it was interesting. Oh, sorry. When you was talking about the culture shock thing, coming from an island, American Samoa, and then joined from an entirely different culture and subculture around you. It was, for me, the different aspect was I was young. So I was 19. Now, I did grow up in Samoa and then moved to the States, finished high school in the States, and then I joined the Marine Corps out of Roy, and I still get culture shock because, for people who don't know, Utah has a pretty high Polynesian community. There's quite a few of us out here. And so even though I was surrounded by the Western or American culture, there was still a couple of polys that I can stick to around and still feel, a taste of home. But when I went to boot camp, I was just barely turned 19. And it wasn't like all of my knowledge from the Marine Corps was non-existent. I didn't know anything about the Marine Corps. I had my best friend in high school, JROTC, always wanted his dream to be a Marine Corps. And he was trying to get a sign-on, and asked me to come with him, to be with him when he signed his contract. And I went with him, and I ended up signing that day with a date to ship out in 2 weeks. And so I scrambled, got everything done, and then I was off to boot camp before I even knew it. No idea what I was getting into. I saw a little video, thought it was cool. I thought it was interesting because I watched the movie. What's that movie with Jake Gyllenhaal and Jamie Foxx? Jarhead. Yeah. So I watched that movie and I was like, no, I'm going to do that. Cool. Wanted to go infantry. My mom cried when I told her that I had already signed the contract. And she talked my recruiter out, switching my MOS. Ended up going engineer field and ended up a 1345. Basically heavy equipment operator. And, but yeah, when I was in boot camp, that funniest thing for me was that was the first time I had heard an adult swear like how the kids swear at school. Like full on F words with tie-in words together, not just the one swear word. It's like multiple phrases, swear phrases. And it was weird to me seeing a grown man talk like that. Because, when you're in high school, your teachers, your adults around you, they try not to say, every now and then, in football, the coach will say a swear word and you're like, yeah, hyped up. But yeah, it wasn't. No, they was screaming at you using the swear words. And I was just didn't know what I'd gotten myself into, but just kept riding the train, rode it, got a couple deployments out of the way. Had fun, got to see the world. My first duty station was Japan, traveled all over Asia, got to see all that cool stuff that I never thought I would do. And mind you, I took it day by day, just free world, free me. and then came home. But I thought it was interesting everywhere I went, any of the duty stations, any of the training exercises, I always seemed to find another Pacific Islander, whether it be Guamanian. There's a lot of Saipan and people from Guam, all the Chamorros that are in the Marine Corps. There's a lot of Hawaiians in the Marine Corps. Didn't meet any Samoans until I ended up at 29 Palms when I ran into Milford and Saya and Mose and all them. But I thought it was pretty cool that as small as the Marine Corps was, you can always find a Poly or a Pacific Islander anywhere. And so even though we came from different backgrounds coming in, it was still the same experience.
How was that like, seeing other islanders? How was that like for you? Was that comforting knowing that you got another brother, from the islands there right with you, or,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's just like, when you're in the military, you're meeting people from all across the nation. So it's not just the people you got used to in high school that are all from Utah, or all from the people that you knew from elementary school, all from Samoa. No, you'll get random guys from Texas, from Georgia, from Virginia. You got the SA Mexican. You got the black dude. We had a random. There was this Asian dude that was born and raised in Texas on a farm with a really thick Southern accent, and he wore cowboy boots, big old belt buckle, and a hat. The dude looked straight up Chinese. But you find different walks of life, and you kind of you assimilate for as much, but then you run into that Pacific Islander, and you're just like, I'm home. Hey, what's up, man? Different things. We talk about different things. He's like, oh, yeah, I miss the islands, the music, the culture, the vibe. And then next thing you know, it was more instantaneous. I wasn't forced to coexist with these guys because they're in my platoon or they're a fire team or we have to get along. Nah, it was just organic. You run into each other, and then the spark is there. It's almost like you had me at hello.
Yeah, the relationship is totally different. Especially when it comes to joking around. You know how many jokes my white friends have told me, and I don't get them. I just laugh along, try to smile, and try to fit in and laugh with them. But I never get their jokes. But when a Polynesian tells a joke, I actually get their jokes and how they trip or hang out. So that's a big difference when I hang with people, especially here in the US, and versus those who, islanders in general. It's the conversations that we have and the comedic humor that, we share. One thing about Jarhead, I was probably one of those few Marines who've never heard of the movie Jarhead going into the Marine Corps. So I never got any of those references when a recruit was talking about it. So I'm like, I've never seen that movie. So that was my experience. Every time someone brings up that movie Jarhead, I've never seen it until I was like year 2 in the fleet in the Marine Corps.
It's interesting. You guys brought that up about the experiences. Especially, seeing another islander, right? So for me, I never kind of broke character. I was almost, professional. Every single time they're, seeing each other,
professional.
I make sure I kind of, because for us, we are, first off, we're Samoans, and our second language is English. So I would try my best to make sure I was pronouncing, I'm assuming exactly all the words and everything. So when I saw another, for the earliest times when I was in, I was kind of like you as well, Johnny. I've never saw any other Samoans. And I want to remind our audience, Mike T and Johnny, they were in the Marine Corps. Spencer is currently still in the Army, and I was in the Navy. And for the longest time, I didn't even see another islander. But when I did see another islander, I broke character. I started joking, being my normal self. How I am, how we are with our peoples. So that was an interesting aspect of just being try to be professional at all times. And and it's funny because a lot of times when I'm with my coworkers when I was in, and they're like, man, why do you say anything? And then all of a sudden you see another Uso, and this was in Quantico, out of nowhere. It was he was a chief. He was an E7 in the Navy. And as soon as I saw him, the ranks went out the door. There was, so we would just start cracking jokes and laughing. And, all my coworkers was like, what the hell? Like, how come you never, kick it like that with us? Or, say that's because you guys are not my peeps, I'm not being, trying to be racist or anything. I'm just, it's just, there's a different, communication that we have with everybody else compared to our own folks. But yeah, that was an interesting thing. T, come on, man. As a veteran, what's your story? What's going on? What you got for us, brother?
Absolutely nothing.
See what the Recon Scout snipers don't talk about their past.
Yeah, that's Chow Hall. Specialists don't say what we seen. I don't talk much about it because I didn't do the best that I could have done. As competitive as I am, in sports and in other things, I really kind of just did the bare minimum and got by. I mean, I let the excuse of us having a high cutting score because most of the times our cutting score is just to pick up corporals in the 17s. Either that or it was closed out most of the time. So like I'd be salty watching those admin and supply or even combat engineer jobs with cutting scores at freaking 14s, 15s, and I'd be.
Oh man, the UAV guys. The UAV guys were like in 11s.
But man, yeah, those guys pick up sergeant right out of school, don't they?
Dang it. Well, their school's like a year though.
Alexander Kyle.
Yeah, Alex.
I'm talking about you, Mr.
Yes.
Well put together rich guy who took his job from the military and doing great in civilian life.
Amazing.
Making who knows how many figures, owning a whole plot of land and maybe an island. Who knows at this point? But anyways, I didn't really grasp the whole concept of, running like a skinny guy for 8 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles aimlessly, and then, doing our pole work all day and being tired, and then, doing more. I didn't grasp that concept until, outside the military. I mean, I learned a lot of lessons while in that I'm grateful for, and it sucks that it's all in, retrospect. But, I had a great time meeting my Islanders, specifically, you knuckleheads, and then JP and Michael, and then you can tell when Michael's really laughing at a joke. He's talking about that laughing at the white boy joke. His face is just completely neutral and just, yeah. But yeah, it's always, man, like, rest in peace, Bobby. But like him and Kyle or Alex, they would make fun of me and JP because, like, man, every time you guys meet another Samoan, you guys are like, oh, you guys got all excited, but it's just another, big deal. Like, so what? And like, man, like, that's what I loved about JP, man. Anytime we met another Uso, he was legit, genuine and meeting another person and connecting. And then just for me, being a military brat and not being raised, amongst our people and not knowing how we interacted until like later in life within my teen years and going to California and living, amongst my cousins and other Samoans. I didn't really get that experience. So I get excited, meeting another one of us while in, especially a military branch that requires a lot of running because, our people do not run long distance. Well, except for the guys on the other side of the world that play rugby. But for the most part, here in the U.S., we are sprinters. We got the turbo boost to hit you really hard. But as far as you get past a certain distance,
the rest are linemen.
Yeah, those linemen can run.
E-line, O-line.
Yeah, but
forwards.
But yeah, and I don't have too much except for just personal lessons I try to improve on every day.
I appreciate that. I want to scoot it over to Mike. Mike, I know you wanted to get an opportunity to. I know we have that dinner coming up, but if you want to hit up, talk about it, so way our listeners can figure out what they want to do in that month. Maybe check that out.
So to all veterans, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be Pacific Islander. But if you are interested and you are in Utah on November 10th, we have a Pacific Islander Veterans Day dinner hosted by yours truly behind the Lava Lava. It will start at 5 p.m. and will go till 8:30 p.m. It will be at a very special venue, the Hale Center Theater, at their VIP room. So this ain't no cafeteria party we're trying to throw or a ward party. It's not going to be a ward party, so don't worry if you're in Utah. It's no ward party. It's going to be a semi-formal event where we get to honor all veterans. The event is free to veterans and they're one guest. It's open to the general public, but you will have to pay. The link is on our page, so check out our Facebook page, or it's mainly on our Linktree page. The link will also be on this episode. So come out and celebrate, honor all veterans. The theme is Pacific Island. And if you want to sponsor this event, you are more than welcome to sponsor this event if you are interested. The Utah Pacific Islander Veterans Day Dinner, hosted by Behind the Lava Lava, November 10th.
Thank you for
Save
that.
date.
Save that date. And on top of that, go ahead, Spence, take it over, brother.
Hey, thanks. It's like, a lot of things. I think one of the phrases I think is the most applicable from what I've learned about the military is that experiences may vary. And that applies to branches, like your experience with the branch, your experience with the MOS, your experience with the unit. Some guys will come in and be like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever done. And someone else who was right there with them was like, this is the worst thing I ever done. Some guys are like, oh, this is best decision of my life. Some people are like, that was a big waste of my time. And so it's like, look, and that's what I like about when we have this podcast format open is like, we touch on that. Basically, none of us exactly had the same experience, just even those of you guys that were all in the same branch. And so like with me, it's kind of weird because I enlisted at the tail end of 2004, long time ago. And, I've touched on this before. My big motivator is I wanted to make money to, I did want to serve. That was already in my mind, but trying to fit that in exactly how and when, while also fulfilling my religious obligations, that was like the balancing act. And so I enlisted, but it doesn't really feel like my military experience really began until 2010, because I do basic training, I do my AIT, all that stuff was good first year. Then after that, everything gets mixed up. I was supposed to be in a medical logistics unit from the get-go in St. George, Utah. And then, this is funny because like literally my Army experience with my paperwork being jacked up literally started day one, right at the MEP Center. They were like, hey, you're going to this Salt Lake unit, right? And I'm like, no, I don't live in Northern Utah. And they're like, oh, it's okay. We'll fix it when you get back. Dude, some E6 just doing me dirty right at the start. And so I get back and I get home. I have no orders. I'm sitting around. I'm waiting. I'm just like, what am I supposed to do? I feel like I'm supposed to be reporting to someone somewhere. So I finally call my recruiter. I'm like, where am I? And he's like, well, I signed you up for that St. George unit. I'm like, yeah, but I don't have any orders. And he does some digging, calls me back like an hour later. He's like, I don't know how this happened, but you're in a finance unit in Salt Lake City, in a banker unit, like as a mechanic. So it was just all wrong from day one, but whatever. So like do my IRR for a few years, come back. I transfer to my medical supply unit in St. George in 2008. But the whole time it's like, hey guys, get ready. We're going to deploy soon. And just stand ready. But it still was about 2 years before we finally went. And the reason I say that's why it felt like that's when my military career actually started is because up until then I felt like I was just a placeholder. I was the dude who got to put on the uniform and show up and play pretend for a weekend, and that was it. Just it feel awkward because people would come up to you and thank you for your service. I'm like, but I haven't done anything. It's like not even in garrison, like fulfilling a stateside mission, having some role to play in the Army at large. I was like, no, man, I'm just LARPing over here. And so 2010 comes around. I get my first deployment. I go to Afghanistan, and it's funny because like my experience with meeting up with other Polynesians was, I don't know, I didn't really have that experience itself because when I'm just drilling on the weekends in St. George, there are plenty of polys in St. George. But as far as in my unit is, we had this one E7 that would come in, but he was like, but he was hopping on different deployments all the time. Guy was super cool. He was from the only unit in the Army Reserve that's actually a combat unit is the one in American Samoa, and it's that infantry unit. It's the only infantry unit in the Army Reserves. Other than that, every unit in the Army Reserves is support. And so I didn't even know that till I met this guy. I was like, man, this guy's real cool. But he would like show up every other year or so in between deployments and then jump on another infantry deployment. He just one of those dudes who just wanted to keep going. Then I finally get to Afghanistan. My first deployment was we were on Bagram. I was a lowly fobbit, never left the wire, but I was just happy that I was finally able to be there and doing my part, just playing my little role. I'm like, I may not be I'm not that dude you're going to make movies about, but it was actually, I found it a privilege to know that I was supporting those dudes, getting them the medical supplies they needed. We worked at the warehouse on the flight line. We got IDF every once in a while, and it was humbling because we'd see the Angel flights getting ready to take off on the flight line and stuff, and to remind us like, hey, this is what you're here for. And that was a privilege. But as far as like meeting other Polynesians, even there, I've always had this tendency to keep my friend circle small. It's like I want to look out for me and mine. I'm like, I'm here with my group, my unit. I look out with them. I make sure they're taken care of. And actually at the time I was married, my wife was in, and she was deployed with us. And so if I wasn't looking out for my Joes or with my troops, I was spending time with my wife because I wanted to really keep an eye on her to make sure that nobody was messing with her. You know how that deployment environment is. There's horror stories of what happens to some females, even from people within our own ranks. And so I just wanted to make absolutely sure that my wife wasn't one of those statistics. And but anyway, so that was my first deployment. Second deployment, going back to, actually this one was in Qatar. Qatar is a nice place. Actually it's that vacation spot, like literally that's not even an exaggeration. Guys would literally, you guys know this, they had Camp
I went to R&R. I went to R&R in Qatar.
All my friends who
nice.
actually went there outside of the deployment went there because if you were in high stress situations, you need some R&R. Instead of sending them all the way back to the States, send them to Qatar for a week or two or something like that. De-stress.
2 days and you get 2 beers.
Yeah, you had that chili. They had that Chili's, right? You had that Chili's.
We all drank Guinness because it was the thickest beer that they had, and then we went to that mall where everybody drives either a Maserati, or not a Maserati, a Ferrari or a Bentley with that giant shopping cart.
Yep. Yeah, you can go to that. You can go to the gold souks. You could look. Qatar is a great place to go. But look, it says something when you can take a commercial flight right in there. I'm like, man, if you can take a commercial flight in there, it probably ain't a deployment.
C-17, we flew a C-17 in there.
Right. Well, and so like that's the funny thing. I was supposed to be there for a 9-month deployment. 1 month in, they're like, hey, we have a mission going on in Afghanistan, and we need you to go with them. And so I got sent back to Afghanistan for half of that deployment. But in all honesty, I love that because I just wanted it to feel more real again, like I was actually contributing. But here's the thing. In Qatar, we were doing the same important work. When I was in Afghanistan, we'd receive medical supplies from Qatar, because if we didn't have Qatar pushing them forward, we'd have to order that stuff straight from Germany. And so it was cool to be on the other side of that to see. It's like, okay, before I was taking the stuff off the planes, now I'm the guy putting it on the planes. But anyways, they forwarded me back to Bagram. I actually got to spend another half a deployment there. Enjoyed it, and then I've deployed twice more since at different times, just going back, but each time going back to Qatar and just trying to run the missions there. And it's like, and I pride myself on that because, like I said, those are the only times where I felt like it was real, because I wanted to know that I did something to earn my keep. It's like, I may not have been, this might not be my everyday job until it comes to that deployment. And that's what I looked forward to when it came to that, because as a reservist, man, I get tired of these glorified roll calls. But you know what? I'll take that and like go back to my regular life, because my attitude as a reservist kind of turns into, I'm like, oh, I'm good. Give me a call if you need if you got a war, need someone to go. It's like, until then, leave me alone. I want to be scruffy and grow my beard and stuff like that. So, be a loser. I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to paint the rock and mow the lawn in front of the company building, all that stuff that active duty guys are really proud of. But, that's just me. So that's kind of been my rundown for my military experience.
You mean to tell me you don't like fortifying random structures that are already fortified with sandbags just for the hell of it?
I got my share of that in Qatar.
I can't imagine what my life would be if I didn't join the military. And I'm kind of glad that I joined the branch that I did, because if I didn't, I think I would be a very lazy individual. One of the pros of joining the Marine Corps for me was the values that it taught me. Once I got out, I slowly developed those, kind of started hitting the ground running, starting to get my life back in track when I got out. Because when I got out, I was confused. I didn't know what to do, even though I had a job already lined up when I got out. When I got out, like the people in the unit, the contractors in the unit that I was in, they were already wanting to hire me as a civilian because of my work ethics. And maybe a year or two later, I think I was woke. I realized that I was a number in the federal system. We're all numbers. It's that mentality that you realize that everything you do, it doesn't matter to the U.S. government, because we are replaceable. And no matter how hard someone works, they will still get paid the same as someone who does the minimum or no work at all. So that kind of affects my mentality right now with my government job. Right now, I just go in, do my job. What is asked of me, I don't do anymore. Once that clock, that bell rings or time to clock off, I'm done. I clock out and I leave. So that's basically my mentality now, is just do my job, leave, and focus on, hobbies and stuff, things that are more important to me than my job. I kind of value the podcasting and what I do outside of work more than I do work. I think it's more of a mental health kind of thing. It's what keeps me going, because my job, it's very repetitive. You do the same things. I sit there, repair a component on an aircraft. It's like a assembly line of doing the same thing. A robot could replace me. It'll be the same thing, and it gets repetitive. It gets very boring, and you start to think, is this my life? Is this my life that I do the same thing, even though it pays good? But this isn't what I want in my life. I want to do something more meaningful than just something mediocre. So I'm very grateful for the military, for especially the Marine Corps, for setting me on the right path. Oh, and one thing for veterans out there, especially in Utah, I am in touch of the board of directors with the Utah Honor Flight. Their goal is to take veterans back to visit memorials in Washington, D.C. So if you want to sign up for one of those honor flights, contact me, message me, and I'll direct you to the right person so you can speak to on one of those honor flights.
I think we can all agree to a certain degree that our times in the military, or still is right now, in the case of Spence, we in some way or form have been shaped by this institution that we call the United States military. And our experiences, although varies independently, can agree that being selfless, honor, duty, the important factors that creates a character that differentiates us from the normal individual that's never joined. And I think that's one of the things that I kind of resonated with me, and the reason why I looked into the military when I first joined. When I joined the Navy early in 2008, when I was 18 years old, straight out of high school, I wanted to go through a branch where not a lot of Samoans were, honestly, so to speak. And a lot of the friends, a lot of the core folks that I knew from back home, even till now, a lot of the folks that I knew were either majority, in the Army. Spence, even back home, we have the Army Reserve back home, and that's where majority of everybody gravitated towards, joining the Army, and plus back in American Samoa, JRTC department of all the high schools were just solely focused on the Army. And me being 4 years JRTC, having that concept of military and duty and aspect of kind of gravitated towards the military anyhow, pre-exposed to it from that early aspect. And one of the areas that I was really gravitated towards was special operations, and that's what I really wanted to do when I joined the military. And I chose specifically the corpsman route was because I felt that a lot of the jobs in the Navy wasn't too macho. Wasn't too macho. And the reason why I thought like that was because I didn't want to be on a ship. Although I'm on an island, not all people from the island knows how to swim. I didn't know how to swim. So, I wanted to stay away far as possible from the ship. So I thought, going through the medical route was kind of one of those things that resonated with me. And I knew, straight out of the gate that the military is just a stepping stone. And I knew that sometime in the future that the military door was going to close. And that's, I wanted something that was going to transition, all my experiences while I was in the military. That's why I kind of chose that route of, medical field, being a corpsman. So when I was in my first year was nothing but training. Boot camp, you guys call it AIT, we call it A school. Straight off of A school, I went to Camp Lejeune, trained there with the Marine Corps over there to become a field medical training corpsman, or FMF, as we call it. And that's a stepping stone to get into special operations, especially for us, the pipeline, what we call special amphibious reconnaissance corpsman. And that was kind of the pipeline where I wanted to go in. And so I did that, and I did it well, and I got a lot of honors for that. And that whole year was kind of like, man, it was so difficult for me because, as I alluded to it earlier, that I, like what Michael was saying as well, a lot of the, the jokes and a lot of the little phrases, because a lot of things when it came into my mind, I had to translate it first to Samoan, and then to make myself understand. And like a lot of the times, a lot of things didn't really translate well. So I was kind of like slow, but at the same time, I wouldn't say I was slow, but I would say like the idea of just transitioning a lot of this information, I first time being off of the island, although I had a little stint in California for 5 years, and I was just early in my childhood, but majority of my upbringing was back home in American Samoa. So I really didn't speak a lot of English, back home. So coming into the military, speaking English every day was taxing for me, man. Like I had to so, and the reason why I would say taxing because, man, I get tired of speaking English a lot of times, at some points now too as well, but I would prefer to speak our native tongue, Samoan. But anyhow, going back to the story, is that it was kind of taxing where a lot of the the jokes and here and there. That's why I decided to the word I forgot the word. Oh, there you go, stoic. Yeah, stoic. I don't know, stoic where hey, all they're gonna see is that mean look and that straight face and and no emotions whatsoever. And so, I wanted to put that persona out there so that way nobody would talk to me. and then just live with the all the stereotypes of Pacific Islander and Samoan. Because a lot of the folks that I came across didn't even know what Samoan was. They all thought I was Mexican. A lot of this was the East Coast in Camp Lejeune. I went to Camp Johnson, and for quite some time, during those times, I never saw an Islander during that time. A lot of those folks, they were from Louisiana, Alabama, the boondocks, and they didn't really understand, what Islander life was, or they didn't come across with Samoan one. So I kind of was the first introduction to that, and I wanted to make sure that I put off that persona of like, masculinity and where we were tough as natives. So, I kind of put that off out there, still today, a lot of those folks are like, man, and I would use The Rock, that's my favorite cousin, that's my cousin right there, and then that's how we're introduced.
Uncle.
Hey, and I was like,
Uncle Rock.
You guys know how The Rock is? Yeah, he's Samoan, so that was kind of the introduction. But anyhow, did it for quite some time, and then one of those things where you gotta close a chapter and decide to move on. So I got out back in 2017 and decided to start my own business, school, all that stuff. And we kind of already touching on the previous topic of our goals and stuff that we want to accomplish. But as a veteran right now, the title veteran, it's I think I have, to me, and I this personally, I have set up my goals to help all other veterans, whether they're having issues and stuff like that. I try to get them right, because I wouldn't say I have all the information, but I could say that I could get that information for you. If I don't have it right off the top of my head, I am the best person to get that information for you. And a lot of the folks that I've been able to help, and that's rewarding for me, just to help a lot of the folks that came out the military or about to go out of the military. Just trying to get them the help that they need, especially having a little of that medical background, so to speak. But anyways, that's kind of like the wrap up, guys. Johnny, I know you wanted to mention our, for our dinner, we had
yeah. Shout out to Thomas Fadiliu, All Pro Concrete Cutters. One of our newer sponsors for the Veterans Day dinner. But we've had him on the show before, and just an all around stand up guy. He's with All Pro Concrete Cutters is the name of his company out of Utah. He's one of the very few licensed and certified concrete cutters. It's a very specified field. It's not like he specializes in fixing what's already been built. So if you guys are doing any major constructions and they poured too much concrete in one side, need it removed, or you need to cut a door in your basement, he's the man to call. Thomas Fadiliu with All Pro Concrete Cutters. Really good logo too. Stellar looking logo. Person designed that. And he's an all around great guy. Great guy. Works hard, supports his family. And he's one of those prime examples of, the saying goes, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I don't love construction, but somehow that guy's got a smile on his face when he's talking about these different things. Oh, I got to cut this and cut that. Man, never working a day in his life. So, All Pro Concrete Cutters. Hit him up.
Thank you. All right, fellas. I think that's a wrap. I really appreciate it for this evening, talking about our experiences. It's not a. I understand it's not something that we like to disclose and like to talk about, but here and then it kind of I believe kind of helps us with our mental health in that aspect. Talking about the hard things in life just and that's what it comes down to. To help solve a lot of mental health issues is to actually talk about it. And having the ability to talk about it and share with other, like-minded folks, kind of points out your flaws and actually lifts you up if you have some downs and situations like that.
Before we end it, I have one question to kind of change up the mood. So the question is to each and every one of us: what did you do that you've never done that you've done in the military? Do you guys understand my question? So before,
Everything.
before
Everything. And everyone. I mean, everything.
So before the military, what did you do in the military that you've never done before?
As in, what did I do had I not gone into the military?
Yes, basically.
So, yeah, I got one actually. And this is to, actually, I'm glad you asked this question because I wanted to amend this real quick because I said that because I have a tendency to keep my friend circle small, I actually didn't get to fellowship with our fellow polys that much. However, on my third deployment, I was excited because I'm back in Bagram, not back in Bagram, back in Qatar, back in Camp Asalea, and the unit that was doing the firefighter mission while we were there was from Hawaii. I got to meet a lot of polys on that one. It was dope. So to answer the question, one thing that I did because I was joining the military that I never did before, that was the first fight kava I was ever invited to. And so I had I'd always heard of it, never tasted it before, none of that.
You've gone to every single one after that, huh?
You know it, but dude, it was cool, but it was super ghetto because they're doing the mix in the back of the that big. They called it club. What was that club called? It was it was called the Top Off. It was a school recreational place. The polys were always in the back corner doing the fight cabo over there, and nobody had a strainer. So this dude was using one of his old wife beaters as the strainer. I'm like,
I was just about to say that.
I was like, bro, you watched that, right? But I trusted that he did.
New one. It's not even watch that, right. Bro. That better be a new one, as in never touched your body.
Exactly. I mean, but bro, it was. I loved it because that was, like I mentioned before. I usually, I'm more looking at me and kind of racially ambiguous, or people will perceive I'm either Hispanic or just straight up Halangi. But that was when, over time, this one female from that unit was like, "What are you?" I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like where are your parents from and stuff. I'm like, "Okay, I'm half white and I'm half Samoan." And she's like, "I knew you were something." And for me, when that happens, if anyone recognizes me as Polynesian at all, it actually makes my day because it's actually pretty rare when it happens. And so she's like, "Hey, we're mixing back there. You should come over." And so that was a good time. Shout out to that unit. I appreciate them. And yeah, I really enjoyed. That was one of the things that helped me get through that deployment. So shouts out to them.
Well, one of the main things that I owe to the military, I never would have done was on my own. Got my own place, got paid, didn't have anybody to tell me what to do. I was responsible for myself, my laundry, my food situation, my clothes. It was completely independent, and it forced me to grow up. I can't just, "Mom, did you see my?" No, I had to know where it was. Aside from all the countries, aside from all the cultures, the different sightseeing that I've done, I got to do every cool thing I could imagine: bungee jumping, parasailing, jumped out of an airplane, got an elephant to grab me by the waist and put me on its back in a safari through the jungle. rode one of those hydrofoil boats, the big one that the Navy has that looks all super high speed. But out of all of those things, having the freedom to make my own decisions on my own terms, that was the biggest thing for me. Ever since then, when I joined the military and left home, I never went back home. I never moved back. I couldn't live under someone else's rules anymore because I'd gotten used to being self-sufficient, being independent, doing my own thing. And it gravitated forward to when I got married and had my own kids. And then, me and my wife became a team and created a life together, and we had our own space. So, one thing I probably would have never have done was move out as soon as I did. I told you I had just turned 19. And next thing you know, I'm out in the world trying to leave my mark. Regardless of all the experiences we've had, I know all of us had a different experience going through the military and continuing life afterwards. It should not discourage anyone else. The military is a viable option if you don't have a necessary option. They'll teach you wonderful skills. They'll teach you how to be self-sufficient. They'll teach you how to be a productive member of society. And, they'll give you some money too, put in your pocket. Just because someone had a bad experience or a good experience doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So if you were looking at military as an option, highly suggest it, highly do it. And if you're set on a specific branch, go for it. Just join the Air Force. We all get paid the same. They have nicer barracks. Everybody in the military gets paid the same. But join the Air Force. That might negate your logic of the military forcing you to grow up, because that's a bunch of preschoolers pretending they're military. No, just kidding. I love the Air Force. I love the Air Force, but what they say. I throw a shade. Unless you're trying to be unless you want your lineage is dying to be a Marine Corps, join the Air Force. They got nicer barracks. The chow halls are nicer. Everything's nicer.
Hey,
you don't want to be pampered and get paid.
Don't put down my fellow airmen. You're putting down my fellow airmen. Remember, I'm also an airman too. So I have a few things that I've done that I never thought I would do since I joined the Marine Corps. So going to a hookah bar, smoking some hookah. That's something that I've never thought I would experience, smoking flavored tobacco. Second thing, drinking. In my days in Okinawa, every paycheck that came went to hitting the clubs and the bars on Gate 2 Street in Okinawa. And I think Milford knows about those experiences back in the Okinawa days. But I think what did you call the street that you were on and the base that you were at?
Whisper Alley.
Kintown?
Yeah. It was Kintown for T, and it was Gate 2 for me. And the third thing, swearing. I had the mouth of a sailor back then. So before the Marine Corps, I have never cussed or swore in my life. And when I joined the Marine Corps, that's when I picked up every bad word there was in the world and used it in every sentence, every other word. So the good thing about it is that when I left the Marine Corps, I cleaned up my language again. It was like the reset button was hit, and now my mouth is back to being clean. Every time I hear swear words now, I kind of cringe, especially if I hear the F word. So that's why I don't really encourage swearing. But I'm still I still tolerate swearing around me. It's just that now I kind of like I'm not opposed, but I just don't like the language being used around me, especially with people that I don't know. It's weird. When you hear from your friends, it's normal. But when you hear it from other people, strangers, it's different. It's more impactful when you hear it from strangers, but when you hear it from fellow friends, it's like a normal conversation. So the last thing is being on I had the opportunity to travel to many Asian countries, and I participated in many humanitarian aid missions in the Philippines and Japan. I was there, first responder to that earthquake that happened in Japan. We were the boots on the ground to give the aid to the Japanese Operation Tomodachi. And that's one of the major operations that I was involved in because I was there. I've seen the destruction, and to this day, I think it gives me PTSD just thinking about what I've seen. I've never seen anything like it before, because many people died during the tsunami that happened in Okinawa near Fukushima. You see everything leveled, cities leveled, and just their foundations, just total wreck. And it just happened to be around the location that it was very cold. So that was the first time that I seen snow when we were traveling there to northern Japan, and we saw snow there for the first time. So that's how cold it was back in the day. And I forgot the date of the tsunami, but yeah, I'm just grateful that I had the opportunity to help people and to make an impact during my time in the military, because when I look back, I'm like, why did we do these things we did in the military? It seemed like a waste of time, but when I'm involved in an operation that helps lives rescue and provides aid, that's when I think back and my time was worth it, that I got to do something impactful and meaningful.
I just want to give a shout out to Samantha because he didn't clean up his mouth on his own. If you met Samantha, there's no way he was keeping that mouth on him for 1 second. Nah. Every weekend in the military, I just did Bible study and Besse, praise the Lord, never none of the stuff that Tam did. Yep.
Same.
Proud.
I think I was just too drunk. I might have been too drunk. I'm confusing things, right, T?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's the other T. Trouble. Now, for one, even though I played sports all the time, I never ran a mile without stopping. Anytime it was time to run a mile at PE or even Hell Week for sports, I was like, yeah, okay, we gonna do cut me. So running those 3 miles was, I never knew I could do it, but that was one. And let me just say that there'd be a lot more Samoans in the Marine Corps if we weren't running 3 miles and doing pull-ups. I know our brothers and sisters are like, oh yeah, man, I want those uniforms. And they're like, oh, pull-ups. 3 miles. Like, nah, that's what turns them away. But anyways, so just being able to overcome things mentally and then falling with grace by hasty repelling at jungle warfare training. Yep. So you just pretty much standing up, running down a cliff and falling. I was the one falling. But the ones they got on video wasn't me, thank goodness. On a training cliff, the training easy one, you had one dude start from the top and just tumble on down on video, and everybody's just like, oh, man. But yeah.
Service related.
Man. So, I mean, I already hate heights, but watching that made me hate them and be afraid of them even more. But jungle warfare training, that's an experience, man. I'll tell you that. But that's pretty much all I got.
VA rating. We have considered all your aspects, and that is not rated for coverage. Oh, man. Hey, so, man, I'm going to sum it up to only 2 top things. Back home, we all know, back on the island, the closest thing that you could get to, like, any type of massage was the local healer in your village. And that local healer was usually that old man. And that old man, dude, I'm telling you, man, if you're coming in expecting that this is going to be a petting massage, you're in for a rude awakening, man. Because one of the biggest thing, and I say this, my exposure to massage parlors. And I'm
Well, what
laughing.
kind of massage you be getting, huh?
You talking about the Philippines or the Thailand massage?
Hey, whatever that's in you guys, mental, whatever you guys are thinking about, yes, that's what I'm talking about.
You have to mention the
Oh,
country.
okay. We're talking. I was thinking about like the cucumber on the eyes and facial and
Hey, man.
the big buff dude in the white shirt that's half buttoned down.
Yo, I'm telling you, man. I'm just I don't want to say it. I'm just laughing because, man, I wasn't expecting it. It was a nice beginning to the massage, and then all of a sudden, the freaking lady, man. All of a sudden, I'm like,
Don't go to Soapy's, man. Don't go to Soapy's.
Man, if you're ever in DC area, there's a street on there called J Street. Stay away from J Street. That's anyhow. Yeah, that's one of the things.
It's named after me.
Yeah, that was one of the, being exposed to, the massage, that, one of those things where, man, this feels good. So that was one of the things. The second, this should have been my first, but this is kind of sick because it's actually my job, being able to save someone 1,000 different ways. If you were to get shot today, I guarantee you guys, if one of you guys would get shot, I would probably find, off the top of my head right now, all the things that I've been taught to save somebody. It'll probably be
mouth to mouth,
mouth to mouth, crackle
immediately,
cutting that airway.
That's what they call it. Yeah, that's what they call it.
Get that right. So yeah, it's just my job, man. I've never been exposed to being able to save somebody 1,000 different ways. And I was initially back home, or before my exposure to the medical field, I didn't. One of the things was just call 911, and just being open to that and understanding that there are a lot of different ways, especially care under fire. That's one of the things that I really love. Just pretty much my job, or just being able to save somebody. And then that's one of the skills that I still hold today that I think that I could, it's never going to leave me. And just just being exposed to that. But that number one, though, that was kind of, I should have mentioned that. I was one of the big shockers for me, was, being exposed to all this different type of massages, I would say. But,
well, as a Marine, can you give us a quick rundown of, or explain to everyone what the procedure is for a heat exhaustion? What it entails from a corpsman.
The key word that you need to know is called silver bullet. And I used to mention that a lot to a lot of my heat cases. If you are going to go down, you gotta understand. I have the silver bullet, and then a lot
of temperature.
Yeah, hey, and a lot, and this is what when I was with OCS, Officer Command School over in Quantico, and I was part of the training command, and a lot of these, so candidates, they would fear me because they knew that Doc Mingy, as soon as Doc was right there, hey, if you go down around him, hey, it was silver bullet time, guys. Ain't no way, even female, male, done deal. Hey, if you were around my checkpoint and you were to go down, your trousers are coming down. And if I find out that you're about like a 101, like 101 or 102 core temperature, that's still heat. You're about to get heat exhaustion. All your clothes are coming down. I don't care if you have a bra or whatever. You're coming down. You're in the ice bath. Just to just cool it down, get the IV going, and then send my driver to take you to the clinic. That was my procedure. But for the most part, and I know it resonates a lot with you guys. Hey, as soon as a lot of my Marines heard that term, they understood what I meant. And I know you guys know what that means too.
Do you get a lot of people that fake a heat exhaustion?
Yeah, just to get out of training. Yep. Yes, sir.
That's not what I meant. Just for the silver bullet.
See, Yeah. Oh man, it was
Doc Mingy.
yeah, especially especially during wintertime, and these suckers, man, they try to find any way to get out of training. And when I was over here at CLB3, Combat Logistics Battalion here in Hawaii, it was interesting because a lot of the guys over there I kind of understood. So we would be in information, right? And there was some Smuckatelli, private Smuckatelli, come up to me, hey, Doc, I don't want to go to PT in the morning, and this would be the next day. I like, well, tell you what, show up to the clinic, and then I'll talk to you first, sergeant. So he shows up to the clinic, I mean, it's not necessarily I'm training him in, but I'm like, hey, man, I will call you first sergeant, come over here too and see you. And then, I mean, I'm not turning you in. I'm just, trying to hook up everybody. But it's funny times, good stories. But yeah, that was one of the experiences. Just J Street in Washington D.C. Yeah.
I just finished my CPR training last Thursday, and they don't teach that song anymore when you're trying to get the rhythm going on. You know that song? Staying alive. So they don't teach that anymore. They just tell you, get a good rhythm and go as fast as you can. Make sure you're breathing.
Is that right? Go as fast as you can.
That's what they were teaching me, but you have to get a certain pace. Just for our listeners, don't take any CPR advice from us. We're not authorized to teach CPR, but that was just my experience. Before they were teaching that song, but they were just saying, get a good rhythm and go as fast as you can. Get 30 pumps and 2 breaths. But you don't need to give breaths, you just give pumps. But that's what I was taught.
Yeah, I just want to, before we close it out, I just wanted to mention one more thing. So I got through shade real quick at the Air Force there. I just want to say big ups to the Air Force. My natural knee-jerk reaction is always to throw shade because when I was in Bagram, I hated working with a lot of y'all, but I have over the years worked with a lot of good airmen, and shouts out to Lauren and my cousin Nuffo. Very good credit to their branch, like awesome airmen. So just want to say I got love for the Air Force too, but sometimes I look at you the same way these Marines all look at me. So forgive me for that. I still got love for y'all, and I know I've met really good airmen that do really good things. So
thank you as a representative of the Air Force. Thank you very much.
All right, fellas, appreciate your input for tonight's recording session. I just wanted to put it out there that if you are having a hard time, if you're a veteran, you have any issues, feel free to reach out to any one of us on this panel. But immediately, call your local VA chapter, reach out to them, see how they can assist you with any of your issues. Do not go feeling that nobody cares about your situation. There's somebody that's willing to help and lend a help to you, and life is not a closed door. There are different doors, and all those doors can be open for you if you just knock. Other than that, I want to give a shout out again to our sponsors. Get that Matai watch, guys. The importance of why the timepiece is important for you guys and not only us. It resonates because this is something that represents the island culture, represents you as a Matai. Matai is a chief in the Samoan, culture, and it's a timepiece. I also want to give a shout out to Independent Island Life Insurance. And I do want to say, hey, I'm also a life insurance agent too as well. If you guys have any questions, comments, whatever about life insurance, hit up Independent Island Life Insurance. If you're in the Utah area, hit up Natin But Grindz for some good fresh meals, enticing, flavorful, menu over at Natin But Grindz. Other than that, if you guys have any comments, any gripes or any situation that you guys feel that you guys want to say, hit up the comment section, give us a shout out, give us a like, give us something to show that you are there and you are listening. And if you have any issues, private message us and we'll take care of that issue for you. This depends on what the issue is. We might not take care of it, but we'll definitely know who to talk to resolve those issues. Other than that, until next time, thank you very much and have a good evening, the rest of your day. Take care.